So thanks, Brian, for agreeing to be subject to zero, the starting point, the guinea pig to this foray into podcasting kind of thing that we're trying. The
When you say we, who's we? By the way,
well,
hi.
we as in the royal we, the royal we.
As in you alone.
Just
Nobody
me.
else is.
No, I tried to do it with a couple of other people, and we just couldn't get timing to work. And they'll be on here and there, but really, the idea of this was to have honest conversations with my colleagues, with my friends, with my business partner about the profession in a not a gushing way, if that makes sense, but to do it in the kind of like a 30-minute kind of opinions, talk about different people's journeys, where they are, what they're doing, and who better to start off with than someone who is someone
Old.
to me. Well, yes, but also after all these years, still very pro optometry, still very enthusiastic about the profession, and just let other people kind of like share these journeys. There are so many people we've met, a lot of people who I've met because of you, who have just taken different paths, right? And initially when I started this was all going to be about, right, what options are there for those people who don't necessarily want to be in a consulting room all the time? And then I thought, you know what, why restrict myself to that? I thought that was a bit negative. I thought, let me just talk to people who I know, who are doing different things, and they can talk about the good things, they can talk about the bad things. But I just want people who are honest, and I don't want someone to be on a message, corporate message, independent message. It's not that kind of thing, just so people can know what it's like. So that's where it is. It's pretty free flowing. We can say whatever we want. I've got probably like 4 questions or 5 questions that will kind of guide it. But the aim is to have it done in 30 minutes. I mean, you've got to go to bed. Like you said, you're old and you've got to be in clinic tomorrow. And I've got to go to bed because I struggle after 9 o'clock.
I'll be in bed about midnight because us old folk don't need the sleep, and we've got better things to do with our time. There's some decent TV on.
Have you watched Reacher? Have you caught up to date on Reacher?
Yeah, of course.
So
I mean, I'm on about book 16, and I need to get to some of the other books. Is that light slightly annoying, isn't it? Let me go and change that.
Okay.
That's better. Kind of now a dark background, so I look more menacing.
So let's start, Brian. I know you. Lots of people know you. But why don't we start with, just this, for anyone who doesn't know you, where you are, where did you go to university, and then I'll hit you with the first question.
Yeah, I went to City, same as you. Did optometry because I wasn't smart enough for dentistry or doctoring, didn't fancy toenails or teeth, and so consequently thought I'll do a bit of eye stuff. And in my day, see, I did have to say those words. In my day, getting into uni was, I'll say a piece of cake, but maybe not for me. Have academic grades that were awesome. I think I'll put myself as being successful, if it's deemed successful, in my career as being a people person, because I think if you're not, sometimes being an optom is a waste of time. You've got to be able to deal with people. And so went to City, did pre-reg with a fantastic guy who is still going. He's 96 and we still occasionally talk on email in St Streatham, for those that don't know. Then being a Northampton boy, born and bred, I kind of had a couple of job options that I could have done, and was kind of against coming back to Northampton. But the job was a well-respected practitioner, fantastic optom, DCLP, DORF. I was at school with his sons. His wife was the local, she was an MP, went on to be Baroness Knight of Collingtree. And it kind of just fell into place that I came back. Mum had died. I was only 21 when she died. So I came back. Dad was around. I shared a house with a mate. We kind of had shared houses with our girlfriends at the time. So we shared a house, came back, and I started the journey at Knight and Son to become a partner. Then my fantastic late partner retired, and then a year later died of leukemia, I think, in the end. And so since about 1980 partnership and then 85 succession, I kind of run Tompkins Knight and Son, which I put the name in because it had been an established Northampton business, established in 1868 by Monty's grandfather. And I wanted to carry on that service, tradition, history, and I wasn't going to change the name to Super Eyes or anything else and kind of modernize it because I wanted to keep the tradition there. And I had a building that I worked in, and then before Monty had retired and died, his brother also retired, separate practice. I brought the two together. Then I thought, I know, I'll be an entrepreneur. I can make money and do business stuff. And I realized after 5 years or so of trying to run 3 practices that I'm not a businessman. I'm very much a people person, as I said earlier, who wants to care for patients. And having kind of got back down to a single practice, but a beautiful Victorian building overlooking a park with its own car park. And every toy only had to be bought once, so we could really concentrate on the best team, the best tech, and just be there. And I'm now seeing the grandchildren of patients I saw as children. I mean, it's getting to that level. 3 years in optometry, 48 in the same practice. So yeah, that's kind of my journey.
So obviously I knew that we worked together, and but I didn't know you. It sort of doesn't surprise me, but I didn't know that you weren't planning on coming back to Northampton. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just by hanging out with you and your personality, I always thought it always surprised me that you were in Northampton and not in the big smoke. But
yeah,
you know what? People's journeys are different. I
yeah,
wasn't planning on being in the UK,
no, true.
and went away, did my time, and here I am. Back in the UK
Probably because
for the better.
America rejected you and said, go home. That's much more like, that's probably where the smoke got me. Yeah, I think even post uni, I had mentors, advisors, people I respected who said, don't go into multiples. Now, it was called multiples in those days. And this is not knocking anybody who's currently working in any form of multiple scenario, but ultimately, the journey then had been find somewhere you like working, go into partnerships before limited companies came out. Don't forget, in those days, we weren't allowed to advertise. We couldn't do anything of the commercial stuff that we do now. So it was go into business, find somebody you work with, go into partnership, take over. That's your business life. And the way things are working now in corporate optometry was not dreamed of. And I'm going to say this now because it will come out at some point. I still loathe with a vengeance the fact that young optoms will call the practice they work in a store. I mean, geez, man, that just gets me to the core.
But I think that's what they. We talk a lot about language. You've really had the whole team on that. You've got me on it, and I think that comes with what they're exposed to.
Yeah, yeah.
And there is a lot more not opportunities, when particularly pre-reg opportunities, a lot more of those come up in that kind of environment where they're using that kind of terminology.
Yeah, I know
which
that.
is a
I know
shame.
it's almost impossible for us independents to effectively take on a pre-reg because, as you know, we've only got 2 consulting rooms, so you can't put a third person anywhere and do the examinations, not tests, examinations that we do.
I think we've also got ourselves in a situation where people, they're happy to see a new grad, they're happy to see a student, but ultimately they want someone with experience kind of driving the car, and we can't offer that yet, I don't think. This lead me into my sort of next question. Did you always want to be an optom?
I frequently think back to a conversation I had with my mother, bless her. And I can't even remember why it was, but she seemed to think she had the insight somehow that I should be doing something that cared for people. I don't know what came up. It's something I did. I must have been, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, whatever. I kind of always got the science background. I was at the grammar school, went into the science stream, not the language stream. If you've ever seen my paintings, they're shit. So I was never going to be artistic from that point of view. From the point of view of what I was going to do, it was going to be science based. And as I said, I looked at the medical sciences that were options open to me potentially. I still go back to optometry giving us then, less so now, but it gave us so many aspects of different careers. So you've got the medical side of refraction and ophthalmoscopy, etc. Back when I was training, we had full dispensing training. So we were cutting lenses, we were repairing frames, doing all of those things. We had a high contact lens content in those days because there was no instrumentation. I had an ophthalmoscope, nothing more. A slit lamp, nothing more. Things like an OCT. We learnt computing at university and it was putting cards into a box. That was computing. There was pre ZX Spectrum or anything else. So it was people management, it was fashion, it was changing patients' lives in those days by just putting a different frame on them. They've had a black square one for years. Hey, let's do a small metal round one. Let's change your persona. Let's change your life. Let's do things. I mean, the things that we do now in life changing, they're incredible by comparison. But ultimately, engineering, it had fashion, it had optometry as a thing, which interestingly, by the way, in those days, we were ophthalmic opticians. We weren't even optometrists. So you talked about language a minute ago, and one of the biggest linguistic things we did was change the terminology to optometrist. 1980, a partnership was put together. I had a brass sign. It was a proper engraved brass sign, big solid thing. And I made sure it was Knight and Son optometrists and put the term optometrist back late 70s, early 80s. No one was calling themselves that, or very few were. And so we kind of started that within Northampton that I can tell. And effectively that language has tried to stay with me.
Yeah, and I mean, again, working with you, we both know how important it is, particularly in independent practice, to not only provide best level care, but to be able to differentiate ourselves. And the language we use is huge. I mean, in terms of patient education, differentiation, just being correct, you know, I think there's a lot to be said for simplifying things to make it easier for the general public to understand, particularly if we're talking disease processes and things like that. But ultimately, we have to use correct terminology.
Correct, but not overly scientific or frightening.
It's that balance, right? Yeah. It's getting that balance right. If you hadn't become an optom, mate, what would you have done? Would you have become a gymnast? Would you have stuck to those?
No, I'd gone way past gymnastics when I discovered women. I don't know, actually, and I wouldn't change what I did now for anything. I did and still do enjoy cooking, but the whole thing about being half decent at cooking came later in life anyway, so it wasn't as if that was an early career path thinking. I honestly don't know. I went straight school to uni to work, and I don't mind that path. Gap years didn't exist when we went to uni. If you had a gap year, you hadn't got a job. Effectively, it wasn't, oh, let's go travelling. So yeah, I have not a Scooby-Doo what I would have done if it hadn't been optometry.
Well, I mean, it's definitely optometry's gain because you are definitely, such a strong advocate for it. Do you still see patients, Brian?
Do I still see patients?
Yeah, that's the question. I know the answer.
Yeah, people say you should be retiring, finishing.
So
There
yeah,
are
so
some
why?
weeks.
So why do you still? Why do you?
Why do I still see patients? Because now going into clinic has two aspects. One is it's like a cafe. We do the best coffee, we serve them a beer, cheers, we get awesome dispensers, the more beers they've had, even better. The social aspect is that I'll see 20 different people a day. If I'm at home with the dog, much as I love him, I can only talk to him, and other half doesn't want to talk to me most of the time anyway, just because I talk such rubbish to her. And ultimately, it's a big day-to-day social interaction, which I find enlightening and enthralling still. And the second aspect of that is that, as you know, we have gone down a much more speciality route of late. Last 5 years, maybe it's gone like wildfire. And the changes in life that we can give people by giving them vision with some of the technologies, the kit, the skill set that we've gained, and the contact lens options primarily that we can deal with has made virtually every day a life-changing aspect to a patient, giving them vision, giving them back normal life, because a lot of them have given up on life. We've had 3 or 4 patients talking about contacting Dignitas. How could you let anybody, when you can help them, get to that level of stage of depression in their lives?
I think we're very, very fortunate in what we have chosen to do, how we have chosen to deliver care.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people are not aware. If you get caught up in the mundane refract refer kind of loop, that some people, some people work really well in that, and I have no issue with that, because the ability to provide people vision and just to be able to see is an amazing thing. I know we can do therapeutics now, we can do dry eye, we do all of these things, but the ability to just get people to see is absolutely amazing. I think, but sometimes people forget that, and we end up going so far the other way, either in a medical sense, that we're like, oh, well, let's treat diseases and do that. But we forget that making people see is probably one of the biggest blessings that we can give our patients.
That's our core. That is our core. And I absolutely applaud the educational capabilities of modern optoms, and the future of optometry, I think, is going to be bright with the inclusion of IP into the various universities and the dedication of those guys going into IP. But I never wanted to be a doc. Ultimately, I wanted to help people see, and the sometimes the core of vision giving, if you like, is forgotten in all the other medical stuff that's around. So thankfully, I have You Can Help with any medical needs. But ultimately, for myself, I'm very happy giving vision and giving back. Well, more than vision, as I've said, and will continue to say, giving people normal lives, which they don't have otherwise sometimes.
And I think, again, that's the point I was meant to make, and then totally went off track, was that we have the ability to do that. And I think people need to understand, like, specialty contact lenses, things like that is such an easy, I don't want to say easy aspect, because it has to be learned, it takes time, but it's something that we have access to as a profession that is relatively straightforward to achieve. You don't have to do the further qualifications like you would with IP and all these other certificates.
Yeah.
You've got the skill set there. It's just showing an interest in it and trying to find
It's having the same
somewhere that will let
dedication.
you express yourself in that way, which is, really interesting.
Yeah. Because we are indeed.
I was going to say, are you not going to call the practice that? Are we not going to rename the practice
We could
Superheroes
do.
of Sclerals?
Yeah, we could do. Yeah, we could do. But it's not just sclerals, is it? There's many other things. I mean, look at our binocular vision stuff. Just heard a great talk on BV. Did I just say that? Did any optom just say they heard a great talk on BV? I mean, man, I think in 50 odd years, that's the first time I've ever said that in my life. Those words I never expected to come out of my mouth.
BV, for me, I didn't get it at uni. I just didn't really quite understand the importance of it. But coming out into the real world and then having my interest in sports vision and some of the concussion stuff, that's really, really piqued my interest
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
binocular vision and understanding why these concepts are so important and getting them to work. And
Yeah.
I'd never thought I would say I like BV. At least in all honesty, I still can't say I'm a big fan of BV. But with regards to the aspects of the profession that I enjoy doing, like the dry eye stuff, making sure that their binocular vision is appropriate because of the impact on dry eye.
Yeah.
The sports vision stuff, it has such a huge impact. The myopia stuff that we do,
Yep,
ensuring
yep.
that the binocular vision status is
Yeah.
intact is so important
Yeah.
that totally understand. Probably should have paid more attention to that. We only got 5 minutes left, mate. We're flying through this, and
Right.
I don't
You
like I
said
said. I
you've
just
got 4 questions. You only asked one. haven't you?
no. I've asked a few. But you sort of answered a couple. Was there a specific moment or incident that made you practice the way you do now? I mean, you've sort of answered that in the opportunity to work with Monty and just
Actually, before
trying
then,
being a multiple.
yeah, I mean, before then, I had the blessing to be taught by a guy called Dick Pearson at City.
Yeah, he
And
taught
he
me
was,
when I was there.
yeah, absolute legend. And again, neither Dick nor Monty were serious people. And that, I think, has a real bearing on it. There's no point in going into work every day and being very serious and then not ever smiling and having fun. Because optometry to me is fun. And unless you make it fun, it never will be fun. Refracting can be fun. Contact lens fitting is definitely fun. All of these things are fun. And so the couple of mentors that got me going in the early years made it funny. And I think half the battle with a patient is to put them at ease. And if you're putting them at ease, if there's a way to do it in a humorous way and make them laugh. I mean, Christ, if they leave the practice with better vision and a smile, it's a win-win all round.
I do think, I don't know if you agree with me or not, that we do have some colleagues who just take themselves too seriously.
They take themselves seriously, and I get the professionalism and I get all of that, but it's still a people interaction. So unless you click, and people have been coming to me now for 40 plus years. I had 2 people on Saturday that are now knocking on the door of 50. And I said, oh, I must have seen you when you were 15. They said, I think it was younger than that. And that is dedication, loyalty. And let's be honest, that loyalty has engendered a business capability. 20 plus years ago now, we started a care plan for contact lenses, and that has been our methodology of taking fees, proper fees from patients for many years. And as you well know, that gives us a massive freedom to do anything and everything we want without any concern because we care. We care about them. We care about their eye care. We care about the vision aspects of what they're going to achieve and how they're going to achieve it. And being paid properly for that in whatever methodology, and if it happens to be a Netflix type fee structure, that's another way forward. And I wouldn't be, in my head, we wouldn't be as happy seeing our patients with such a relaxed way. You and I are both super relaxed. How often we see people, when we see them, how we see them. Somebody pops in with an emergency, they've just come in. There's never a question. And that relaxation comes from a properly structured care plan because we care.
Yep, I totally agree. I think that there is elements of the profession, and we did it to ourselves. There's no one to blame. There's elements of the profession didn't do themselves any justice and gave away clinical services on the back of selling spectacles, and now
That's
it's
why they're
tough.
stores. That's why they're called stores
Yeah,
because that's their main job. We sell
yeah,
specs.
and now it's tough because you can go get stuff on the internet for even cheaper than you can get in the high street. Right,
Yeah.
we have 2 minutes left, and so I'm going to ask you one last question. This is it, and then I'll let you go to bed.
No, mate, I've
What
got some TV to catch up on. Reacher, next one.
is it out? Episode 4.
Maybe not. Might be 1923, part of the Yellowstone series.
That came out yesterday, didn't it?
Yeah, did.
What final and single piece of advice would you give anyone listening or watching this today? Anything. Doesn't have to be work related, anything.
For God's sake, enjoy yourself. Because if you don't, what is the point?
Fantastic. Excellent. Thanks a lot, mate. I am going to stop the recording here.